What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down with Fresh Out. You know how we do it over here. I keep it raw, real, and 100. And, I got a really special guest for you guys today, Tyrone Freeson, my man from Ohio. He's about to break it down, tell his story, lace you guys up. We like to be a lot of the first with introducing people to this social media platform. And Tyrone, I want you to tell the people, tell them about like where you're from, how you grew up, and some of the things that you experienced as a young man.
Okay, it's kind of crazy because I grew up in a upper middle class household, and both my parents were working at Ford Motor Company, but I grew up with learning disabilities. I really couldn't talk to. I was like 12 years old. I had to go to speech therapy and things, but I grew up in a real close knit family. Where my mother was very strict, but my father kind of laid back. He was working, but he was doing his thing on the side also. We didn't realize that till we got older. But I grew up in a real good household. My mother was an educator. She really wanted her kids to learn. But by me having dyslexia and ADHD, it was hard for me to learn. And plus, I couldn't really talk. So it was a setback for the family. But they made sure they stayed on me and made sure I worked hard. But beyond that, I grew up in a nice environment, upper middle class. Half my neighborhood was white.
Oh, wow. So having both parents in the house, man. I mean, today that's like a rare commodity, man. Did that help kind of balance things out when you were in the neighborhood? I mean, seeing that, were there a lot of other kids in your neighborhood that had both parents?
Well, it did, but most of the people in my community, have both parents. But having both parents in the household, my father really was ineffective because he worked every day, then he hit the streets, kind of very abusive. So, and he never taught us how to really actually be men. My mother ran the household, so having two parents in the household could also be a detriment to a family or a kid upbringing when your father is not being a man in the household. He more was a street dude that was working and having multiple partners, sex partners, having kids with my mom. So I seen a bad side of having two parents. Sometimes a mother can do a better job by herself.
That's interesting because you know having both parents, you would assume that it would kind of balance things out because there comes a time in a man's life where I feel you need a man. You never
Hmm.
have to have a man when you go through that adolescent, testosterone. You're kind of like trying to figure out yourself out as a teenager and being able to have that conversation. And I always say that um, besides clothing, feeding, and giving a kid um, an education, you got to teach them life lessons. So these men who are in the household, it's so important that you have these talks with with your young son and kind of lace them up on life experiences. A lot of time you just assume, and the mom takes on such a big role. But the mom, I commend all the women out there, single mothers, but having that man, if you don't get him at home, you're gonna seek him out on the street, man.
Facts, facts. And that's what I did. Well, long story short, I never really went to the street till I became an adult because my mother very strict. She kept her foot on our necks. You know what I'm saying? My father was laid back. He wanted to do his thing, want to hang out, party. But my mother kept us kind of focused all through high school. And my brother then went to college because my brother was All-American in basketball. And I ended up getting shipped off to the United States Marine Corps. I was stationed down in Camp Pendleton, California. So she did her job, and I learned a lot of how to be a man from her. I thought until I got to the Marine Corps. Then that my life started taking a turn for the worse once I got to the Marine Corps. But she made sure we stayed focused the best way she could when we was growing up.
Yeah, that's quite a story because I grew up um, a part of my life on a Navy base in Treasure Island back in the day. I don't know if you
Okay,
remember Treasure
okay.
Island
Yeah, I'm in
in the
Treasure
Bay
Island. Yeah.
Area. Yeah, and Navy. There were some Marines there, Coast Guard, and man, it was one of the funnest times of my life hanging out with all those military kids. feeling like on the base there was no crime, you know, really safe place. You met a lot of interesting people, and it was just a great time, man, for that cultural experience. That taught me a lot about just different people, and I never seen race. I mean, Filipino,
Right,
Hawaiian, white, Mexican,
right.
everybody kicked it. You know what I mean? It was just a melting pot. And I have friends that that was stationed at Camp Pendleton. I know guys, in the Marines who were down in Camp Pendleton, man. So I know that base too. So how did the military? How did that impact you? Coming in there and seeing, like, and I know when you were going through it, there were some real dudes going through there at that time.
Yeah,
Drill sergeants and
yeah.
stuff weren't playing. So how was that?
Well, when I went through, I had went in '83. So I was just coming in with a lot of guys still in from the Vietnam era. So they was hardcore. And
Oh,
it made me really like kind of hardcore because I was kind of like a shy kid trying to stay out the way. I was real small. I was 5'6", 110 pounds when I graduated from high school. Then I grew 3 inches in there, but it gave me that dog, being in the Marine Corps. And then I went out to infantry. So getting around a lot of different races and nationalities, it showed me that the world was bigger than what I thought it was. But the Marine Corps also made it bad for me because when I went out and started doing my thing on the street, I wasn't afraid of anything. You see what I'm saying? Then I knew about, different tactics and stuff, and I used that to my advantage on the street because I wasn't afraid. So Marine Corps really was a blessing and a curse.
yeah, though, the guys that I've met that were in prison or got into the criminal element that were ex-military, they carry it at a whole nother level. They're not they're more calculating. And I had good conversation with those guys because my mentor was an ex-Vietnam vet, because they didn't entertain bullshit. A
Mm-hmm.
guy who's from the military, a lot of times, like, he's quiet, very respectful, but don't play no games. And when it comes to handling business, his word is his word.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to be getting high over here. Not to say people, but he's more focused, because in the military you can't be getting high and going on call. You're not
Right.
you're not mixing those two. So it's a different mind state. And I never gotten into doing drugs. I was never high when I committed a crime. I was always focused, and I kind of prided myself on growing up around military people to be more military thinking when I was doing things, calculating, not high and drinking 40, and being and just being discombobulated. I was always trying to be focused.
Right.
Um, so what did you get into that led to you going to prison after the military?
Well, what happened? By me being in the military, and it's shocking, I never drank before and I never got high. So one day I go home on leave. My grandmother had died. And I didn't know at that time that my brother and some of my homies were actually hustling. And I get home and see the Mercedes Benzes, the BMWs, and all these exotic cars. This on leave. And I'm at home for a week. I'm like, damn, these dudes got all these cars. And I'm looking at my big brother like, man, they really some lames, man. My brother, educated dude, he got a social worker degree from Eastern Michigan University. My other brother went to the University of Dayton for basketball. I like, they making all this money. It can't be that hard. So they taking me places. I'm seeing people patting them on the back. Uh, I'm seeing them wear all the jewelry. So one day, my oldest brother, I go pick him up. I'm using my mom's car. And I go pick him up. And I'm riding around with him. He said, here, bro. He had me like $2,000 or $3,000. Now, mind you, this is about 85. And then he said, here, man, he gave me the big gold rope and this diamond pendant watch with the diamonds in it. I was like, shit, I'm about to get out the military, man. I don't even want to do this next 2 years. I said, they getting all this money, and I know I can do the same thing. So the last 18 months of my time in the military, I kept plotting how we're going to put this together. I was going to put this together. Because I said, they can do it. With my mentality, I know I can do the same thing. And that's the reason I got in the game, because I seen them in the game. I was hustling.
Wow.
I was hustling marijuana. Can I say it on here? What it was?
Yeah,
I was hustling marijuana, cocaine, and heroin at that time. once I get out the service.
It's such a strong pull, the streets, when you think about even like how the rappers, who a lot of them back in the day, like the rappers rapped about what they saw on the streets, and a lot of them kind of were able to avoid that because of their talent with rapping. And then now you got rappers who made it out, and then they go back to the streets to try to do street
Right,
shit.
right,
And I'm like, dude,
right,
you hustling backwards, bro. You made it out. Why are you trying to go back to prove you're gangster, man? That's a talent. That's a gift.
right.
So I don't get it, man. And I looked up when I seen, like you said, the guys with the nice cars, and the back in the day with the Jerry curls or the perms and the
Right,
fur
right,
coats, and, the women, and you're thinking, wow, man, this guy look like he just rides around all day with women, and he ain't doing, he kicking it, getting
right,
money.
right.
And it seemed like that's the life, and I mean, I didn't know all the other stuff that entailed that, but it really it had a lasting impression on me. And once I got a little bit of like quick money, you're like, this right here doesn't make sense to go sit somewhere for $8 an hour, $12 an hour. It doesn't make no
Mhm.
sense. So it is a strong pull, man. So I can see how a lot of young people get caught up in it. So as you got into the game, man, what was that like?
Whoo! I ain't gonna lie, and I'm not here to brag and boast. I loved it because from a kid growing up small, very kind of shy, uh, learning disabilities, it gave me power. So once I got in the game and I started hustling, the military had molded me. Like I said, I always calculated what I was going to do. I know what time to make my moves. I know what time to go pick my packages up in Detroit or Chicago. I would go with the flow of the traffic. See, I never went like late at night. Like a lot of dudes go late at night. You the only fool on the highway with the highway patrol. So I'm going to go early in the morning when everybody going to work. And I drive in the middle lane. And I go by myself. Never tell anybody because I wasn't afraid. But once I started making money, it made me feel like I was bigger than life. You know what I'm saying? And then now I'm not Lil Ty no more. I'm like Godzilla. And then I had that dog in me, and people seen some of the things I was doing on the street. So people had that fear. So it made me powerful. And it wasn't a love of the money, it was the love of the power that I never had from growing up and being, like I said, having a learning disability, not actually being bullied, but afraid to speak my mind. Because think about it, you 5'6", 110 pounds. Who can I defeat? But once I got on the street, started making money, now people gravitating toward me. It gave me something I never had before, and I love that. I love the rush of having that power, that street power for making money.
And what kind of money were you making back then, to put it in perspective? And that was in what, the '80s? Like what type of cash were you seeing coming through?
This gonna mess you up. I got in the game. My brother didn't want me to get in the game. I ended up getting in the game through his plug. He started me with 4.5. I didn't know how to rock nothing up. This was me getting out of the military. I didn't know how to rock it up. I didn't know how to do anything. He showed me the game. This how fast money was coming in. By the time 3 or 4 months later, I was getting 4 or 5 keys. Now, we were selling, I think I might have been paying like 15 to 17.5. I was selling ounce for ounce for $2,200 a piece. I was making a $50,000 profit off each brick. Now, mind you, I'm tight with money. I'm not educated with money, but I'm not spending a lot of money. And I kept flipping and flipping. And I got so greedy that if I ran out, I'm back on the road. I'm not thinking about birthdays, holidays, Christmas. I'm going to get that package and come back. So, under my indictment, that what the government said. I was making an S at $250,000 per week for 18 months under investigation. So they say I made 18 million in an 18-month under investigation. That what the government say out of the Fourth Circuit of West Virginia. And also I was hustling in 4 different states. So that's how fast the money was coming, bro.
So
And don't
as far
forget,
as
this in 88, 85, 86, 87, 88. So that kind of money like quadruple what it is now.
Oh yeah, that kind of money back then. That's when everybody was pushing the wide body Benzes, the M3s, the 850 BMWs, the 560 SECs. I mean, You were the Maseratis back then. I mean, that's when everybody with the donkey ropes. I mean, that was the era, man.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. You from LA, right?
I'm originally from Northern California, Sacramento, but I've lived all over California.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you how much money I was getting. I had a broad. I moved her out to Walnut Creek, out your way, and then I was hanging out in the jungle, right down Nicollet and Martin Luther King Street, driving the Benz. I got my first car. It was a BMW on, I think it was Ontario Street or Orange Street in Long Beach. My first car was a BMW. Now, how can you tell a young man who come from making a military pay to give all this up? And I was going hard because I didn't have no fear. I didn't even think about the consequence ever getting locked up. I thought I was too slick. And then I didn't worry about nobody doing anything to me because I'm going to come at you first. So my mentality was so gone that power was crazy. The power to me was crazy. That was my biggest addiction. But getting that money and having that lifestyle, what I traded in, no, because I had a great time. But once that incarceration came, yes. But beyond that, man, it was beautiful back then, money wise.
How did they get on to you, man? I mean, what? I mean, because you said they had been watching you for 18 months. Did
Right.
somebody like drop a dime on you? Then eventually that's caught up.
Yes, I got charged with an 848 leader organizer. The case started in the Fourth Circuit out of West Virginia. Two guys, can I say their names? Because I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, shit.
Okay, guy named Big Rob Gordon and Billy Cunningham, what happened, they had got hemmed up down there with a guy named Arnie Wilson. They were working for Arnie. Arnie was copping for me. Once they got hemmed up, they testified on Arnie Wilson. And then once Arnie Wilson went to trial and got found guilty, they started mentioning my name because they trying to get a time cut and came back with a superseding indictment and put me under the leader organizer. I never even got caught down in West Virginia. I was in Ohio. And they extradited me back down to West Virginia and took me to court and labeled me as the state of West Virginia first actual kingpin under the crack law. And that's how I went to prison. And I was a first-time offender.
See, that's what a lot of people don't realize. You don't even you don't even have to get caught with product, and you are tied in with somebody. This guy gets caught. He's not cut for the game, and if there's nobody telling on you, and there's nobody to tell you, basically there's they can't give you no more time. But these guys,
Right.
and that's what you got to look at. If you get caught up in that game, it's high stakes, high money, high stakes. But these guys, a lot of times, the first thing they do, and they supposed to be, oh man, I'm from the hood, I'm gonna ride, blah blah blah. They start thinking of everybody they can tell on with a list, and they
Right.
just start telling.
Right.
They start
Right.
telling, and they get
Right.
it all the way down to maybe they can try to get 5 years. That's the best. They done told on 10 people, and then those
Thank
10
you.
people they
Thank you.
squeeze in to try to tell on 10 more. The government doesn't have to do any investigation because these street dudes do it all for them.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, bro, this is exactly what the Fed agent told me. They came back in there, they tried to interview me. The first thing the man's okay, let me go back a little bit. My brother also had a life sentence for selling drugs. He got caught up in Michigan. So the Fed guy come in, he talking to me. The first thing he said, man, we never knew anything about you. We knew about your brothers. We still thought you was in the military. And when the guy was telling
Wow.
a story about me, they thinking I'm in the military, thinking the guy was lying. So they put the investigation on, and I still never got caught. Now they round up a couple other people at Virginia, at Richmond, Virginia, and what the other place? Quantico, Virginia, and Charleston, West Virginia. Now my name started ringing, but now my name ain't ringing for the drugs. It's ringing for some actual gunplay. So now they say, oh, so he on the gunplay and he's selling narcotics. We gotta get him, bro. They never set me up. They never wore wire. I never been raided. All conspiracy. They charged me with an 848 leader organizer, and they charged me with constructive possession of a firearm I never got caught with at a first-time offender, and they gave me 27 years. And the Fed said they never had me under the radar. Never even thought about me selling drugs until they mentioned my name. Never. Because, see, my brother and them name was so big in the city that everybody overshadowed me. I'm the little bro. They think they giving me stuff. They don't realize I got my own stuff going on. I stopped hustling with my brothers and I'm making some more money. I went around them.
Yeah, the federal game is a whole nother game, bro. And like I said, all they keep doing is they give these guys these 5Ks,
Yep.
and these guys go in there and they start telling, and you got guys in there walking the yard, they hard, but they going back to court. I'm going back on my appeal. No, they going back telling.
They
They
going back and
telling,
tell. They're going back and
they're going
tell.
back to tell. And the thing is, a lot of times they ain't even got to take the stand because they'll tell, and then they bring you in there. And the thing is, like, okay, if you want to go to trial, you risk this guy actually taking a stand. If you
Right.
take a stand, you're going to get the life. If you take the
Right.
deal with the snitching, it's 27 or 30 or whatever they want to throw. They throw in
Right.
football numbers.
Right.
So, they got you isolated. You can't talk to nobody. You got an attorney. He's telling you you paying him all type of money, but it don't matter because the feds already have a guideline and it's set up to where for this much drugs, your minimum, your deal is 20 years. That's a
Right.
deal. You got
Right.
guys taking deals for 30 years and they're in their 20s and they're like, well, you get out, you still be 50. You're like, God damn, 50? You got to
Right.
be kidding me. And
Right.
that's how they do you, man. And, if you've never been, if this is the thing about a lot of guys too, you were in the military, so you've been under some pressure situation. But the street dude, he's never been in a cold room interrogated. He's never had to go through boot camp. He ain't never went through any
Mm-hmm.
type of psychological training. So as soon as the police comes in there, white room, metal desk, a little Coca-Cola and a hamburger or anything, these dudes are telling.
Right.
Dude, Coca-Cola and a hamburger and maybe a little pack of M&Ms. Dude, he's telling. I used to sit up, man. I'm telling you,
Right.
man. I used to see these dudes in prison, and we used to watch military movies, and they would show waterboarding and dudes, doing stuff over in Afghanistan and Iraq. And I remember this brother. He said, "Man, soon as they grabbed me, bro, he said I would have told on everybody. These
Right.
dudes is not cut, bro. They're not cut for the game. You're not.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
going against a trained detective in interrogation, and you got a dude who smokes weed in his free time. He's doing a lot of sexing, drinking. He's never been in a situation, bro.
Right. Right. And that's why I always tell people when I speak on my little podcast that I'm trying to build up, I always tell people, you ain't smarter in the government. They work 365, 7 days a week, 24/7 to catch you. Only time you ain't trying to get caught when somebody call you and you trying to make that run across the street in 5 minutes. Then you're back high and you procrastinating again. You ain't thinking about the long term. And like I always tell people, and you can't beat the government. Now, bro, I'm gonna show you how you can't beat the government. I had 3 paid attorneys. I had John Potts, Sheldon Wittenberg, and Greg Campbell. 3 paid attorneys. I'm sitting in that courtroom with 3 actual paid attorneys I got convicted in 89. In the courtroom in 89. And I still get found guilty. You went against one prosecutor, all on hearsay. First time offender. Get an honorable discharge out of the Marine Corps. Never been caught with drugs a day in your life. Come from a good family background. They got all this documented, but they said one thing, making $250,000 per week, drug kingpin, all that went out the door. I got 3 paid attorneys. My attorney told me not to take the plea. He's like, no, man, you ain't playing out on 10 years. 10 years, they don't have anything on you. And don't forget, in the 80s, the war on drugs just started coming out. So the guideline was all kind of like twisted up. He like, dang, conspiracy, first time offender, you never got caught. We can beat this. All 3 of my attorneys told me to go to trial. When I got found guilty, my one attorney, Sheldon Wittenberg, he told me he gonna do my appeal free. He said he never seen nobody get railroad a day in his life. And I tell these guys, y'all not making the money we made. Y'all going in there with a public defender. So you really gonna get convicted. And everything turning fed now, because now you playing with violence and with guns. So fed time is a mandatory for anybody doing crime now.
I always say I call the public pretenders, and I remember when I caught my case, and I started going to the law library, and I actually came up with some cases that helped me get some time off. And she's like, "What are you doing? What are you studying? You're not playing cards and dominoes, or hanging. What do you do? Why are you going to the law library?" I said, "Man, I'm trying to get up out of here. I'm not trying to do all this time." And she's like, "Who'd you get this from?" It says non-published, because a lot of the good cases that vindicate people, a lot of times you got to catch a
Right.
guy in transit, and you're like, "Man," he's like, "Hey, man, I just came from court. Check this out." And it's non-published, but he won. So you trying to hurry up and
Right.
get the information, because otherwise you'll never see that case. It would never be in
Facts.
any periodicals, any books. You can't shepherdize it. And I wrote this dude's case down, and long as you wrote down the case, the date, all the information, I brought it in there. I wrote a motion, and it knocked 2 years off my sentence. Man, my attorney, she was hot. I mean, she's
Right.
supposed to be my attorney. She was mad. She looked at the prosecutor. The prosecutor looked at me, and the judge was like, "What else you got to say?" And I'm like, "Damn, I'm out of bullets. I only had the one case." But
Facts.
like that to me right there, like you're only gonna beat these people if you help yourself, and you're gonna have to. The information is not provided, because all the books in the library typically are people who lost. You don't
Right.
get the ones
Right.
that won.
Right.
Only way you get the ones that won, luckily you'll get maybe somebody on the street who had a brother, he's out, he beat a cake of
Hmm.
life, or he got this, and they'll send you the case, and you go to look the case up, and you really can't find it, but you'll have the case, and if that case is real, that's going to get you out of prison. But the game it's not fair, bro. It's not a fair game.